Hi, Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
And it's Thursday, so we're doing a listener story today. I don't remember any of these listener stories.
You know what?
So it's kind of going to be new for me.
That's exciting. And I'm sure they're going to have some kind of theme because for some reason...
They always do.
Always do.
So strange.
And I'm going to stop being annoying and pointing that out because the last episode that I listened to, this was weeks ago now, but last episode I was like, how are they so similar? Like 5 times. And I was like, God.
But it's genuine. You were like actually shocked.
I really was, but it was like, yeah,
no,
we get it.
sometimes I cut things out that I say because I'm like, okay, we get it.
Sometimes I wish you would cut a lot of the stuff I say. But anyways, what's our tea?
Well, you make me laugh. Our tea today is Bigelow English tea time. I've got a little honey in mine.
I do too.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm really excited.
Me too. Let's go.
Oh my God. What?
It's okay.
Okay. I also had a spoon in there, so sorry that you had to see this.
Oh, how dare you?
Let's go.
Let's go.
That was so soothing. The honey, my throat's hurting a little bit today.
Dude, I was just about to say, drinking that makes me feel like I'm at a grandma's house. Not particularly ours, because I don't really think we ever drink tea other than sweet tea, but it just felt very grandma.
I agree. You know what? I am turning into a grandma. I've always been grandmotherly my whole life. I've always been the type to just sit and do things that require sitting.
A small craft.
Yes, a small craft, a book.
Yeah.
You know, tea.
Books? You want to talk about books.
Do we? I'm scared of your reaction.
I'm very excited about reading again. I used to read a lot in like 8th grade. Sorry, sue me. This was like 10 years ago.
I feel like we all did.
But I used to read a lot and I would find a lot of books that I would like and I'd be reading back to back and I just fell off. I feel like I got busy and then it was just like, I'll read again later. I'm back in it.
Good.
I just finished. I did our book for our book club, Survive the Night, Riley Sager. There were some parts of it that I didn't like how the characters were written just because, I don't know. I don't want to get into it, but I'd give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10.
Okay.
It was not that bad. However, the book I just finished was 404 pages of hot trash.
Oh, that's sad.
50 pages in, I was like, this really is not that good. But I was like, I just got to tough through. Like, I gotta make it through page 404. I shut the book and I was like, what a waste of time.
That's sad. I hate when that happens. There is a book that is very popular that I did not like. I don't know what it is. The premise sounded intriguing to me. The writing just wasn't there for me. I finished it. I finished it. I just couldn't do it anymore. I always get really sad when I don't like a book because the person who wrote it put so much time and effort and heart into it.
They did.
And I feel so bad not liking it.
Okay, so I take back saying hot trash.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
I am just intense in general. Like, you can't take me literally. You have to just like tone it back. But
everything Natalie says, like minus 75%, and that's her actual feeling.
Yeah, I'll be like, the thing was like 10 feet tall. It's like 3.5. I want to read 1984, but I feel like it's going to make me have a panic attack.
Maybe.
Because I'm going to go, oh.
But I read it back when it was like,
this could never happen.
With that, we will move on to our listener stories. So our first one is from Ireland. First off, love your guys' channel. I'm so picky, but I love how comfy yet scary it is. I could literally listen to you guys all day. Thank you. My name is Ireland. I live in the high desert of California. I have 3 different stories about dreams in the past that came true. Here we go. First story, I was pretty young, about 14 years old. I was dating this guy. I thought he was the love of my life, as we do when we first date. So we were together for about a year. We went to the same high school, as did my cousins, and I ended up transferring to a school closer to my house. Time went on, and I had a dream that he and my cousin had kissed. I didn't think anything of it, just maybe thought I was being insecure, so I didn't bring it up, nor did I ever think anything went on between them.
I would have texted that cousin immediately.
We would all hang out all the time, and it was always cool. A month passed by, and I have the same exact dream again. I was hanging out with him the next day, and this time I did bring it up. The look on his face should have been confirmation, but he played it off cool, didn't say much. I brushed it off and continued watching the movie we had on. Fast forward to a couple of months later, I was in a fight with one of my best friends. By the way, my cousin was also one of my best friends. We had a group of 5 girls who always hung out, but the fight broke us apart. I'm on MySpace or Facebook, I can't remember exactly which platform, but I'm arguing with a friend and my cousin joins in. And then my friend says something like, "At least I don't kiss my cousin's boyfriend." I was so confused. She then posts a link of a computer screenshot of this guy she knew chatting with my cousin, and he asked her what's her deepest secret. My cousin then explains to him how she and my boyfriend were at a party and she was on his lap and they kissed. Obviously, I was so mad and heartbroken, but the fact that I had the dream twice was the crazy part. Something was trying to warn me.
Oh my God. I have so many things to say about this, but I don't want to be annoying.
First, the screenshots, the receipts.
Why would you tell someone? If you did something so shameful, why would you, 1, tell someone, 2, do it on a digital platform?
Yes.
Crazy, but that's beside the point. I wish I could harness your power. I don't know why. Something was telling you, like, you have to know this happened, and I love that. Maybe it was a manifestation of both their guilt. Maybe they thought about it all the time.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I think when people think about me, I have dreams about them.
I told you the other day, like, I might be crazy, but when people think about me, I think about them.
Hey, whatever. Because I feel the same. It's just two dumb bitches going, exactly. That is everything this podcast is. Oh my God. Suddenly I'm embarrassed.
Because we have no clue what we're talking about. We're like,
yes. Okay.
Anyway. Second dream. This one is more of, if I didn't wake up, would the house have burned down? This happened about 4 years ago, so I never wake up from dreams. It's so rare, and I've now figured out if I do, then something is up. I was having a horrible dream. It was a scary one. Not going into any details because it had nothing to do with what happens next. It was just scary. But I woke up in a panic. I sit up and breathe, and I smell smoke. I walk out to the living room, and I put my flashlight on, and the whole house is filled with smoke. I wake up my boyfriend, and we wake up his parents. I guess his mom had left a pot on the burner, and it was starting to burn bad. I feel like something was trying to wake me up to try and lead me to that. I think if I didn't wake up, maybe a full-blown fire would have started. I'm thankful to have woken up and not had the house in flames.
What a cool power. I don't know if you would call it a power. What a cool thing to possess.
Third dream. This one is weird. I don't understand why, but this happened about 2 years ago. So it was a regular night for me and my boyfriend. We went to bed and I was having another crazy dream per usual, but in this dream, I was in the same spot I was in when I fell asleep. An explosion happened right outside. It felt so close, as if the glass would break into our room. Instantly, I woke up in a panic. My boyfriend is up too. It's about 4 a.m. now, and he usually wakes up at that time, early bird. So he asked if I was okay. I told him my dream, and of course, we just brushed it off. I went back to sleep, and he stayed up. 6 a.m. rolls around, and he wakes me up saying something exploded in the dirt lot across the street from our house. It ended up being a meth trailer. Usually no one is in that lot. It's more of a desert field people dump trash in, but it was so weird. Some things were different, like in my dream, it was so close to me, but it's so crazy how it was exactly what I had dreamt. I'm glad I told him my dream beforehand because I don't think anyone would have believed me. I absolutely love dreams, good ones and bad ones. I can usually always remember my dreams. There's places I go in my dreams and visit again. I love to dream, but sometimes dreams really try to speak to you. There's other small stories I have, but these are the 3 main ones that got me. Hope you enjoyed. Love you guys, and I hope you guys talk more about dreams, please. And sleep paralysis. Got a couple of stories on that too.
I would love to do like a month long of talking about dreams. I could talk about dreams.
I love dreams.
Forever.
Our next story comes from Lena. Hi, I love your podcast and just thought I'd share 2 experiences. The first one is when I was like 10. Where I lived, we go off solar power, so in the winter we have lots of power cuts. I sleep with red LEDs on because I can't handle the dark, so my room is and was always bright. I was sleeping one night and woke up and saw my lights still on. I then heard a voice say, "Story's finished now, lights out." Immediately, my LEDs turned off, and when I tried to turn them on, they wouldn't because my power went out. I still have no clue if I saw the lights turn off, then imagine the rest, or what. I kind of really hope that it was like they were still in a dream state, saw the lights turn off, and then they fully woke up. And so that was their brain. I don't know. I hope so, because that is so creepy. Story's finished now.
I would feel like they were going to kill me. I'm going to choose to believe that it was a dream, I hope.
My second story is also dream related. I was dreaming, and my whole dream was about me going to an earthquake house, basically an earthquake simulator. Once I got to the actual place, I woke up to a real earthquake. I have no idea about this one either. Love you guys.
That's nuts. Also,
freaky.
We're 2 people in, and the first 2 are already
dreams.
Are just telling us about their dreams.
I know.
How are we just all connected? Okay, I'm gonna
Didn't
stop.
you say you weren't going
I'm gonna stop. That's my one time I get my one.
Our next story comes from Savannah. Hi, Macy and Natalie. I just recently found your pod, and I absolutely love it. I wanted to share a story with you guys that happened to my mom. I personally have a ton of stories as well that I can share with you, but I will start with this one. This story happened in 2011, and I just recently found out about it from my mom, and it chilled me to my core. A little backstory. We moved from my hometown about an hour and a half away to where my dad's family lives because he wanted to be near his grandmother as she was in her later years in life. When we moved there, we joined a church that allowed us to stay in their parsonage, a house the church owns for members of the church to use. One night, a few months after we moved in, my parents had a heated argument and needed some space to cool off for a bit. So my mom walked down the hill to the church and unlocked it and went inside to pray and collect herself. They had a key because my dad was a deacon for the church and they would often go in there after hours to pray and worship. My mom said she walked in and started to make her way to the altar. She said it was dark in there with just enough light coming from the music equipment, but she didn't want to turn on the lights, so she just sat in the dark praying. She said she felt like she wasn't alone, but she knew no one was in there, so she just went on and kept praying. This was a small church with no extra rooms, just the sanctuary, so she could see the entire space and knew no one was there. As she was sitting there for a while, she began to hear loud popping noises all around the church in different areas, but just chalked it up to the church being old and settling. But the popping noises kept getting louder and closer to her. So she started to get unsettled. She started to say the Lord's Prayer for protection because when it started getting closer to her, she felt a negative spirit surrounding her and she felt like she was being forced to leave. As she was saying the Lord's Prayer out loud, she said the popping sounds were getting so intense, but it stopped on a dime and went silent for about 15 seconds. She thought it was over, but then all of a sudden, she said it sounded like someone was at the front entrance of the church and had started sprinting as fast as they could, holding out their arms directly beside them, hitting every pew down the aisle, heading straight towards her at the altar. I've literally got chills and tears in my eyes writing this right now.
Me too.
My mom said she kept shouting the Lord's Prayer and started running out the back entrance of the church. And when she made it to the door, whatever was hitting on the pews was charging right at her. So she slammed the door and locked it, and it immediately stopped. She called my dad while she was still in the parking lot and told him to come down there as fast as he could to look in the church to make sure there was no one in there. My dad was down the hill in 2 minutes and went in and checked every inch of the church, and there was not a soul. They went back up the hill to the house, and my mom told him what had happened, and he said that exact same thing had happened to him when he went down there to pray before. He just didn't tell her because he didn't want her to be scared. I was shaking when my mom told me that story because when we moved into that house, I felt a negative spirit there as well, and it felt like it dwelled in the basement. My mom started to tear up when I said that because she said that's where she felt like it originated from, and that's why we ended up leaving the church, because even after that, in the light of day, stepping foot into that church, she could feel a malevolent spirit lurking there. That is just a tip of some of the stories my parents and I have been through paranormally and have stories about. I will send you more soon. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Love you guys. And she sent another one. So, Savannah's second story. Hi, Macy and Natalie. I hope you ladies are well. I wanted to send you another story that happened to me this time. This is a long one, so I apologize if it takes a minute. This happened when I was about 14. My best friend had come over to my house on New Year's Eve. This was the very first time she had ever spent the night with me. We did the normal things for New Year's Eve and watched the ball drop, but shortly after, my mom told us we needed to head to sleep. We fell asleep, but were only asleep for about 2 hours when I awoke and sat directly up in bed. When I looked over at my best friend, she was asleep, but then woke up and asked me if I called her name. I told her no, that I had just woken up, but didn't know why and was going to try to go back to sleep. I hardly finished that sentence when we both heard what sounded like loud footsteps coming up the basement steps. Let me set the scene for the layout of my house. My parents, younger brother, and my bedroom were on the left side of the house, together along the hall and the bathroom. Going down the hall led you to the living room and kitchen/dining room. Then past that was the basement steps and my older brother's room. So if we were on the left side of the house and could pinpoint where the sounds were coming from, then they had to be pretty loud. At first, I just thought it was my dad or older brother going to get something down there, but I peeked out of my bedroom window and my older brother's car wasn't there. He had gone to spend the night with his girlfriend that night, so once I didn't see his car, I knew it wasn't him. I opened my bedroom door and went straight across the hall to my parents' room, and they were both sound asleep. I dashed back across to my younger brother's room, and he was also asleep. Mind you, when I opened the bedroom door, the sound of footsteps stopped immediately, so no one would have time to run back to their room once I opened the door. I went back to my dad and told him that I think someone is in the basement, and he said he didn't hear anything and that it was probably an animal outside. My best friend and I went down the hall to my older brother's room just to make sure that he wasn't home or something and that I wasn't spiraling for no reason. His room was completely empty. And while I was over on that side of the house, I checked the laundry to make sure no one had been washing shoes or something heavy. Both the washer and dryer were completely empty. The dishwasher was completely empty as well. So once I had narrowed down that no one was in the house, we ran right back to my bedroom, utterly terrified, and shut and locked the door and hid under the covers on my bed. We sat there literally shaking because as soon as I closed my bedroom door, the footsteps started again. I forgot that I didn't check the bathroom, so I had to run across the hall to the bathroom just to double check no one was in there. And surprise, no one was there. I was terrified at this point, so I stayed huddled in the center of my bed with my best friend, waiting for it to either stop or for whatever was making that noise to get us.
Oh no.
The footsteps continued and got louder and louder, and then it started to come down the hall that was next to my bedroom. We heard what I can only describe as scratching on the walls and a guttural growl. I am in no way, shape, or form exaggerating this. It sounded like a beast or a demon was outside of my room clawing and scratching, and it was the most terrifying thing we have ever heard. Mind you, when I asked everyone the next day if they had heard it, they all said they didn't hear anything all night. This persisted for at least an hour as we sat there shaking. We were both frozen in fear and could not move. It eventually did stop, and we had no idea what this thing could have been. So my best friend had brought her iPod with her, so we decided to open the voice memo app and record for the rest of the night just in case something decided to start up again. Somehow we both fell asleep, and when I woke up, my best friend was still asleep, but she woke up about 10 minutes after I did. She pressed the stop on the recording, and we listened to a good bit of it, fast forwarding through most of it, just to see if we had gotten anything good. When I tell you, my heart stopped because about 5 minutes before the end of the recording, before my best friend woke up, something whispered her name into the iPod. I kid you not, I was the only one in my room that was awake, and I heard nothing. We started to scream and ran in there to have my mom listen to it. She thought one of us had said it in there to be funny, but I promise you with everything in my being that neither one of us did that. Once my mom had started listening to the recording, she went back to the beginning and started to go through it herself, and she was able to hear some of the stomping and scratching that we had heard, and when it whispered my best friend's name, she believed us after that. My best friend didn't come over for quite some time after that, which I completely understand. But there are some other stories that involve her in that house. It seemed like it really was active when she came over. My whole family had encountered something in that house at one time or another of us living there. But this encounter for me has remained the most terrifying paranormal experience I have ever been through. Thank you for taking the time to read all of this. I apologize, it was pretty lengthy. Love you guys, Savannah.
That is sick.
Hate that they were both there listening to it, growling and scratching at the door and the walls.
And her friend, when she first woke up, was like, "Oh, did you say my name?"
They heard the name on the iPod.
You would never see me again. I would not be coming back to your house.
When she said that friend didn't come over for quite some time, I was like, oh yeah.
I would never come back.
I wouldn't want to live there anymore.
No, that friend would be coming, or you would be coming to my house if I was that friend.
Yeah. So our next one comes from Marissa, and warning here for you guys, it's going to talk a little bit about the body parts and deceased people and children. So skip over if this is just not something for you today. Hello, my name is Marissa. I live in Texas. Woo! I found your podcast a couple weeks ago, and I'm now a loyal listener. I love all the spooky content, even though it makes me so creeped out. Years ago, I was going through a divorce and decided to put myself through medical assistant school. One thing we got to do as a class was visit a morgue at a local university. I confess, I was so nervous because since I was a child, I've always believed in the spooky stories I've heard, and the thought of being around dead bodies / body parts gave me an instant bad vibe. While at the morgue, the staff had a long table full of real organs, hearts, brains, kidneys, etc. They gave us gloves and allowed us to hold them, feel them, and get accustomed to seeing this type of thing.
Shout out to everybody in the medical field, because I could never.
Agreed.
Or anybody that works in a morgue or a funeral home. I could never.
Just handling bodies in any way, shape, or form.
I couldn't do it.
I quickly decided to opt out of touching and stepped to the side to just observe and listen to the instructor speak of the history of the morgue. All around this small room were cylinders filled with preserved body parts and even preserved babies from decades ago. Talk about creepy. I felt like I was in a scary movie. Having 3 children of my own, I just could not imagine making a choice like that. Then I realized I'm staring at these bodies way too hard and making a personal connection with them, making me feel way too connected to whatever spirits or entities that may be lurking in this room.
I was about to say the reason I couldn't work in anything like that, when you started talking about brains, I was like, I would be looking at it and be like, who was this?
Yes.
This was a person with a whole life.
Making
and
that
then
emotional connection and spiritual connection.
I would spiral so bad.
I went straight home after the field trip. I felt uneasy, but quickly took my mind off of it, distracting myself with my mom and sister who were visiting me from Las Vegas. When I entered my house, I went to close my front door behind me, and when the door had about 3 inches left, it slammed shut. It was like it was yanked out of my hand by some impatient spirit, but I chalked it up to maybe the AC, or I kicked it with my foot on accident or something. I don't know. I told myself anything at that point to ignore the incident. That night, I gave my mom and sister my bed and opted to sleep on the sofa. I had a very cozy sofa at the time, and it was always so much colder in that area of the house, making it the perfect snooze spot. I fell asleep fast, but woke up randomly in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, which was odd because, like I said, it was usually so cold. I realized rather quickly that not only was I sweating profusely, it also felt like someone was sitting on my chest. I felt like I couldn't move, and there was so much pressure on my chest. Something was pushing me down so hard to where I couldn't get up. My panic set in and I tried to scream, but when I opened my mouth, I felt like only whispers came out. I took a deep breath and was finally able to move again. I sat up as slowly as I possibly could and grabbed my phone, and in my head, I prayed for it to not be 3 a.m. But alas, when I looked at my phone, it was 3:30 a.m.
Dude, if I wake up in the middle of the night, usually I don't check the time because I'm scared that it's going to be 3.
There was a time in my life where I would wake up every night. It was like more than a month straight, every night, like 3:30.
No, that scares me. I used to get really scared when I was younger. Now, like, it'll freak me out a little, but like I can calm myself down. When I was younger, if I would look at the little clock on the stove and I saw any 3, I'd be like, oh no.
Yeah.
And it was after watching Emily Rose.
Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yep.
That'll do it.
It shaped me into the person I am today.
Same. I sprinted across the house to my room where I jumped in bed with my mom and sister. My sister woke up to the absolute chaos I was causing and sleepily asked if I was okay. I told her, yeah, I'm just really scared. And I intertwined my legs with my older sisters and cuddled up to her like I was a 5-year-old clinging to safety. At this point, I'm so far up her butt, she was probably thinking I'm a crazy person. But while we both were starting to drift back to sleep, we heard the door creak. Yes, my door opened just a smidge, but my doors were so squeaky, we were able to hear any movement. She said, WTF was that? And we laid still and quiet, frozen. Trying our best to go back to sleep, we closed our eyes. We both believed if we didn't give whatever that was attention, it would eventually go away. Again, we started drifting back to sleep, and the next thing we both feel is 2 hands slamming down on the edge of the bed where our feet are. It was so hard and so real, like some pissed off person was mad we were sleeping and slammed down on the covers trying to wake us up. The feeling and the smack of the covers we heard sent us into a frenzy and screaming and flopping around my bed like fish out of water. Needless to say, we woke our mom up and probably almost gave the poor woman a heart attack, considering she was asleep like a rock through this whole encounter. Obviously, we woke up and stayed up the remainder of the night, made us some coffee and turned the TV on, some cheesy girly movie, and talked about everything that happened. That morning, my grandparents came over and blessed my house. Nothing else happened after that night, but I decided I was not made for the medical field, and I run my own photography business now that I love so much. Thank you so much for creating a platform where I can share my creepy stories, because I know I sound crazy to a lot of people. More stories to come, Marissa.
Not crazy at all. And I like that you found your passion. I love whenever people love what they do. It makes me very happy.
My first thought was like, maybe the spirit knew her destiny and was like, this is not for you. You need to move on. You need to change course. And only way to get there was to scare her out of it.
I was not as terrified until the hands slamming down. That and the fact that
They both
of them
felt it.
Too much for me. Also, their mom sleeping like a rock, can't relate. You'll think about our mom and she goes,
yeah.
She pops her eyes open so fast, it's scary.
Yes.
It's really scary.
No, yeah,
You'll literally just like look her way and she can sense it.
And her eyes are open. She's looking at you and she's like, what? I have been a new subscriber for 3 weeks now. I want to thank you guys for making my work so much more fun and making the time pass quicker. Because of your podcast, I always look forward to working in the morning, knowing I will be listening to some episodes. I have 2 very scary experiences with the paranormal, and for some reason, it always involves a creepy humanoid. So, Natalie, please buckle up.
Oh God. Okay.
Story number 1, the humanoid creature in the hotel stockroom. So I work in a hotel here in Germany. I work for housekeeping on the late shifts. We have a stockroom where I always get the vibe as if someone or something is staring at me. It always creeped me out. It's always so cold, and no matter how bright the lights were, it felt so dark. One time I had to work from 5:30 p.m. until 2 a.m. and already had a feeling something was going to come up that day. I didn't know what, but I had a really bad feeling. Around 12 a.m., I was inside the stockroom picking up some tea bags for myself when all of a sudden, while I was walking out of the stockroom, I heard something moving around, like a cat climbing on stuff. It was moving a little bit fast. I don't know how to explain it really, but my heart was racing at this point and I couldn't breathe properly. I ran towards the door, and as I was turning off the light and shutting the door, facing inside the stockroom, I caught a glimpse of a humanoid creature peeking from one of the shelves on the ground just 2 shelves away from me. I didn't know if I was tripping myself out or if I really did just see that thing. What haunts me is I was always in that room since I took care of all the guests' needs from there, and whenever I was alone and felt like I was being stared at, was it that creature staring at me the whole time?
What did I just say?
Peeking.
About peeking.
I know.
I just said the only thing up there with me running is peeking.
Yeah, hate that.
That's so scary.
Story number 2, the grudge from the reflection of my boss's TV. I remember this one, and this one is freaky. prepare yourself, buckle up, especially you. Back in 2016, I was working for my boss in the Philippines who owned a coconut factory. I was friends with his daughter, and on that day, we wanted to hang out. Their house was a 2-story home, and I was waiting for her in the living room while she was in the shower. I was sitting on their sofa in front of the TV, and there was no light on in the room except for the one from their staircase, so I could clearly see everything in the reflection from the TV. After what felt like an hour, I didn't see my boss. No one was talking from upstairs. My friend wasn't saying anything from upstairs, and I heard no running water. It was completely silent. I was on my phone and started to hear something like a woman groaning, as if she were in so much pain. I could hear it clearly, but it was also not too loud. I stopped doing what I was doing, just listening. I could still hear it, but now I could hear like a barefoot stepping from the staircase, and I seriously thought that it was going to be my friend that I would see in the reflection. But God, oh God, I was so wrong. I felt like all of my energy just left my body when I saw what was making that sound. It was a woman in a really dirty dress, and she was crawling down the stairs. I don't know how to explain it, but she wasn't crawling in a normal way. Her whole body was facing upwards, and her long, greasy hair covered her face, while she was crawling down the stairs ever so slowly. I could see her bones just breaking with each step. It was a very grotesque scene. As soon as she was 3 steps away from getting to the ground, I regained my energy as if being electrocuted and jumped off of the sofa and ran outside their house. I then told my friend about what I saw, and I was expecting her to say that I was crazy, but what she told me sent chills down my spine. She said she's always seen the woman in her peripheral vision, sometimes on their ceiling. She also loves to play around with men taking a shower. Apparently her brother was taking a shower one time and the lights turned off. When he opened the shower curtain, he saw her combing her greasy hair in front of the mirror. But also, why is she there? In that area is where a lot of women were assaulted and killed by the Japanese during World War II. They would chain these women and assault them and torture them until they died. I hope this wasn't too much for you as it was for me. It all sounds so fake or crazy, but I would never forget how my body reacted. Thank you so much for reading my stories, and I hope I can hear this one on one of your subscriber stories one day. Love you both so much. Support from Germany.
My God.
All of them have seen her. Whoever she is.
I didn't want the friend to confirm it.
I almost wish that the friend was like, you're crazy, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. You know?
Too. That's what I was holding on to a sliver of hope, being like, no way. Oh no. It's like sad, but scary. I don't know how to feel.
If that's the case though, like if she was just a woman who experienced so much hardship and horrid things in her life, why is she presenting herself like that? To scare everyone away?
I don't know.
Especially to scare just another young person.
I don't know. What if she can't choose?
I hate the idea of like crab walking down the stairs, bones stretching in weird places that they shouldn't be.
That's like straight from a scary movie. That's too bad.
I am sick.
I am too.
Between that and the pews hitting and I don't know, it all feels like very
scenes cut from horrifying movies. Yes.
Hi, Ghosties. I'm Madison from Houston, Texas, and I have been binging y'all's podcast for the past 2 weeks while at work. I'm a wardrobe supervisor for the ballet, so I spend a lot of time alone walking around the basement dressing rooms with dark closets and mirrors everywhere. So needless to say, I've been spooking myself a lot while listening to the pod.
I'm obsessed.
I know. That's one of the coolest jobs I've ever heard of.
I want so badly to be a ballerina.
At the ballet?
I want to be in the ballet. I want to be a ballerina so bad.
I've always believed in ghosts and weird things for as long as I can remember, as though that was just a normal fact of life. Same. Naturally, I've always had an interest in paranormal stories, true crime cases, and haunted places / objects. I have many spooky, weird, and haunted stories that I have personally experienced throughout my life and would love to share them with the podcast. I'll just start with this one, but you may hear more spooky stories from me in the future. Sorry, it's a bit long. My mom, stepdad at the time, Tony, my sister, and I took a trip to England in the summer of 2013. We stayed a week in Devon, England, at a very old hotel. It had haunted mansion vibes for sure. The walls were very thick and warped. There were old, dusty paintings everywhere, and even a knight's armor suit at the foot of the stairs. It was next to an ancient church, and we learned that the monks used to travel underground between the now hotel building and the old church during the war. It was definitely spooky, but in more of a cool historical way. I did not suspect it to be haunted, really. Anyway, my sister and I shared one room, while my mom and Tony shared the room parallel to us. Our headboards were separated by a wall, and you had to have an actual key to get into the rooms. Aside from the shower tiles looking like they had tiny screaming faces in the patterns, everything seemed fine for most of the week. Every night, we kept the window curtains open to let the streetlight in and would have the fan on since it was summer and the hotel only had a heater. One night, we left the curtain open, as usual, but kept the fan off. I was having a nightmare that a ghost was messing with the dresser drawers, pulling them in and out of their place. I was then woken up by the feeling of a gust of cold air flying past my body. When I opened my eyes, I couldn't see anything at all. Everything was pitch black, even though I knew the streetlights were shining through the window. It was as though something was covering my eyes. I rolled over and plugged in the lamp next to the bed. Once my eyes adjusted to the light from the lamp, I could clearly see the light still shining from the street outside the window. It was weird, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Little did I know, at the exact same time, my mom woke up in the opposite room to the feeling of someone sitting at the foot of her bed. She kicked her feet a little, assuming it was me or my sister, and told us to go to bed. Remember that we would have had to have their specific key in order to even get into the room. She then felt the bed rise as though someone had stood up from sitting on it, and then Tony woke up to the sound of the floor creaking from my mom's side of the bed to his, as though someone was walking to him. He opened his eyes, and just like me, could not see a thing. It was pitch black, as though someone was covering his eyes, even though there should have been the streetlights filling the room. He felt a presence standing over him, staring down at him for an unknown amount of time. He couldn't move, couldn't see, and was too terrified to even try to fall back asleep, but eventually he did. On our last morning there, while at breakfast, Tony and my mom decided to tell us their side of the story and how my mom knew it was the same time as my experience since she heard me plugging in the lamp. We told a hotel worker who then told us this. There was a young girl who ran up and down the halls and into the room my sister and I stayed in looking for her puppy. She runs around the beds chasing the dog, then runs out. There is a couple who stays in the room my mom and Tony shared. The woman typically sits on the chair under the window while the man will sit on the bed and walk around and stare at the men who stay in that room while they sleep. Nearly every couple who stays in that room reports having a similar experience. This is one of my favorite haunted experiences I've ever had, mostly because I had no previously conceived notions of what to expect. I didn't go into the hotel knowing it was haunted, so there was no way for my mind to play tricks on me. Anywho, sorry that was so long. I promise my future stories will be much shorter if I end up sharing them. You two are fantastic and so comforting to listen to. Thanks for sharing your spooky haunted research and stories with us. Have a wonderful week. Thank you, Madison.
Thank you. I can handle the couple sitting and, I don't like the eyes. The covering of the eyes.
Not being able to see. So is it covering the eyes or is it a looming figure, just shadow figure in front of you so you can't see? You know what I mean? Like they're standing in front of you at the bed?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I didn't think they were actually covering their eyes.
God. I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's probably right.
I still don't like it either way.
I don't like either one.
But I do like this story because they didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably assume old hotel in England probably got some vibes about it. But you don't know the specifics.
Not
and you
to this
come down
extent.
and you're like about to leave and you're like, yeah, by the way, I had this strange experience in my room. They're like, oh, actually, everyone
was
stays
just
there.
Dolores and her husband.
Ed.
I was gonna say
Were you?
Ed. Yes.
That's the first name that came to my mind.
Either way, they didn't feel super
Threatening.
threatening. Maybe just like, oh, what is that? So I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
I don't want
I'm not mad about
it. You do.
Maybe.
You're sick.
I don't know.
You're sick.
I don't like the sleeping part of it, but yeah, I kind of do. I find it interesting. I don't know.
I don't.
Sue me, okay?
It's interesting, but I don't want to have that experience personally.
Okay, so she had a little add-on here.
Ooh.
I also wanted to include a second part to this story that is sort of related. When we talked to the hotel workers who told us about the hauntings there, my stepdad at the time shared a haunted story about his son. Tony's son, Greg, was no more than 2 years old when Tony was taking Christmas photos of him next to the tree. For some reason, Greg was looking up, pointing at it, talking to the air in front of him in all of the photos. When they finally printed the photos, they saw what Greg had been looking at. A large, white, cloudy shape was hovering right in front of him. Tony could not see the figure in person. He only saw it after the photo was printed. When he showed Greg the photo and asked, "What is that?" Greg walked down the hall and pointed at a photo of his great-grandfather who died before Greg was born. There is more detail on this story, but this is all I can remember. However, the most haunted part about this story is that it had been printed in several X-Files books and other ghost story publications. I wish I could get more info personally, but I am no longer in contact with Greg or Tony. I have attached the photo though. Please feel free to reverse image search it. Maybe the X-Files publication will come up. I'm not sure. Also, we ended up finding the book at a car boot sale while we were there, which is also haunted because what are the odds of that happening? And gave it to the haunted hotel. I hope they still have it. Love y'all's podcast. Thanks for sharing your stories, Madison.
That is wild. Show me the photo now. Whoa. No way.
That's wild.
That is so crazy.
You're like, hey, over here, take a picture. And then you realize, oh, they were actually trying to talk to and see somebody,
But
spooky.
It wasn't just an unknown thing.
No, he recognized it as his grandfather.
That's really cute.
That is sweet.
He was just there watching him take pictures.
Thank you for sharing, Madison, and we'd love to hear any more stories that you have. And more about your job. That sounds so cool. Our next story comes from Shane. Hey guys, I am a new subscriber and wanted to share 2 of my stories. 1. We have a historic home here in Tennessee called the Sam Davis Home. My friend Teresa worked there and I decided to volunteer one day. Mind you, this was the only time I'll ever volunteer there. She was showing me all the basics in the museum and had me walking around. It came to the point that there were only 3 of us on the grounds and I was in the museum looking at some of the artifacts. The whole time I was in that room, I felt as if someone was on top of me, watching me. I ignored this as it's not my first experience and went on with the museum only to ask Teresa if she feels the same. She then told me that they always feel Oscar, who is Sam's brother, in the room watching over them to make sure nothing happens. Now, come to the end of the day, when we had to lock up, we went to the house to lock the doors and Teresa had told me to basically taunt the spirits by saying Andromeda stole the house from Oscar. They were siblings. I told Teresa that I didn't want to, and as we reached for those double doors to lock the house, there was a sudden pull on the doors, almost like something was sucking them in, and then a huge push. No one was in the house. If they were, the alarm would have gone off. Needless to say, I ran all the way back to the museum.
I've never heard of it, but
No,
I would
we need
like
to look into it.
I would like to know more.
I need to know who Oscar, Sam, and Andromeda are.
I want to know all the... Yeah, there seems like there's some tea there.
Yes.
And I would like to know.
Agreed. Story number 2. This was my first experience in my house we moved into in 2011. My sister Ashley's now ex-husband lived with us and was telling us that his childhood home was haunted. I, being 14 at the time, laughed and was like, if she's here, make it known. I would mock her, and one day after gym class in high school, I felt a major burning sensation on my back. I went to the nurse to get her to check my back, and she said it looked like 2 hands clawed my back. Needless to say, I now say good morning and good night to the girl he brought over to our house, even if she isn't there anymore. Just in case.
Yep, as you should. All right.
Hate that.
That's all I needed to hear.
Don't
all right.
mock the spirits.
Nope.
Don't mock the spirits.
Leave them alone. Let them be peacefully,
That's something
quietly.
we need on a shirt to warn everyone all the time. Just please.
Leave the spirits alone.
Yes. Leave
God.
Brittany alone.
That's what I was thinking. But I feel like I've said that like 5 times.
We have a Ghost Him shirt like Britney Spears, and then we have a Leave the Spirits Alone. We're just a Ghost and Britney podcast.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
fine.
Yeah.
Our next story comes from Kiara. I'm 24 years old, and I have a story from when I was around 9 years old that's forever burned into my brain. I lived in this old, very rundown trailer with my family, and I've had a few things happen to me, but this one story just haunts me. Some extra information. I lived in a hoarder-like house, so we had bags full of clothes on the floor of our hallway. They have been there for years. It kind of became our floor, mainly trash bags and random laundry. Everyone in my family was sleeping, and I was up super late when I wasn't supposed to be. I was sitting at our computer desk wearing headphones playing the stick run game on Facebook when Facebook had games. It was around 5 in the morning and I thought I heard the toilet flush, so I took one ear out of the headphones thinking maybe it was my sister, but when I looked down the hallway, the bathroom door was open and it was dark, so I shrugged it off. After about 20 minutes, I heard the bathroom sink turn on and I felt frozen. It took me so long to get the courage to go turn it off. When I went to shut it off, I ran so fast back to my chair because I was spooked. At this point, I put the headphones back on, but left one ear out just in case, and again, the toilet flushed. At this point, I just felt so numb, like having an internalized panic attack, and my ligaments felt numbish. I just kept staring down the hallway, just petrified, and I felt stuck, staring. Staring so long, it almost felt like tunnel vision. Then, after a while, I heard rustling plastic, like the plastic garbage bags at the end of my hallway. So I stare even harder to see if I can see them move. I saw footprints in the black plastic bags, and my heart fell to the floor. Within 2 seconds, it ran at me in a full sprint. I couldn't see anything, just the sound of footprints on the trash bags. When it got to me, it spun my chair as fast as possible. I was in a computer chair that spun, and it spun inhumanly fast. I picked up my feet and just held myself in a ball. My headphones were ripped out of the computer, and I felt like I was spinning for ages. almost like I was on the fair ride that you lean up against the wall and you go so fast it feels like no gravity. Then I just randomly stopped, like a hard stop, and there stands my stepdad. I just started bawling my eyes out, telling him what happened, and he didn't believe me. He got up to get ready for work and was mad I was still awake, so just sent me to bed. To this day, I think of this all of the time, and I tell people anytime ghosts get brought up.
That is so scary. And that feels like something that could happen to me. Because
Staying up late and
even to this day,
games.
yes, because I used to stay up so late all the time and would like get in trouble for it.
I was picturing you when I was reading
No,
it.
even now, like if I'm up late, I'm trying to break it out of my brain that it's like I'm an adult. I can do what I want. If it's a Saturday night, I can stay up late. It's fine. But if Ryan catches me at like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, I've been found out. Like I can't. I have to like creep around the house.
You're creepy.
I just feel like I'm gonna get in trouble. I don't know.
I feel that. I don't like how it was like it was spotted and it was like, what are you doing?
No.
Oh, you're not supposed to be awake. Like this is my time. This is my bathroom time. Okay. We have our last story. It's from Angelina. Hi, Ghosties. My name is Angelina. You guys are always complimenting other people's names, and I have to say you both have pretty names. I've never met a Macy before, and one of my best friends is named Natalie, though spelled Natalie.
The normal way
The normal
that you
way.
would expect it to be spelled. Yes.
Yours is the weird way. I have 2 beautiful stories to share with you guys. They're kind of short, but they're both visitations. One was back in 2004. I was 4 years old when my great-grandma died. I was close to her and my great-grandpa. This is my mom's parents. So my grandma and her 7 siblings were gathered around their mom in the hospital. I was little, so I was running around playing with my cousins outside. I remember how shook my grandma and mom were when they came out of the hospital. My grandma shared what happened. All of the siblings were sharing stories with their mom when suddenly my great-grandma started getting frustrated. She kept saying that my great-grandpa was walking back and forth outside the hospital door. All of the siblings were confused and the room got a little cold because my great-grandpa died earlier that year, but my great-grandma insisted he was there. She kept asking, why isn't he in here? He's just waiting outside the door. Then she started talking to him, and before any of them could say anything, she slipped into a coma and passed soon after. I always think of that story, and it makes me happy that he was there for her.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
I want to be sad, but that's beautiful. He was there.
Love that.
That's
and
how I would like to go.
I believe that's how
Yeah.
it is. Like we have our people waiting for us to take us on to heaven or the afterlife.
Yeah. That's what I have to believe, or else I'm going to spiral.
My other story happened a couple of years ago. I was dreaming of traveling through a dark cave, looking for something. Then, all of a sudden, my Tia appeared, surrounded by a white, hazy light. This felt different than the dream I was experiencing. She said, Angelina, please tell your grandma I'm doing okay. I also wanted to tell you that your life is beautiful and everything is going to work out for you. Don't forget that. And then she faded away, and I continued the dream within the cave. When I eventually woke up, I felt warm. It felt like something was in the room, but it wasn't a bad feeling. I knew I had to tell my grandma that she was okay, so I did. My Tia Caroline died a few months before that dream. I had never dreamed of her before. I would say we were decently close, but my grandma grew up with her and would see her almost every week. One of my grandma's brothers also died that year, but I never had a dream like that about him. I truly believe that was her in my dream because my grandma hid her grief from my Tia's death more than she showed on the surface.
I believe it was her. 100%. You can't convince me otherwise.
I find it so interesting, and I've read other stories about this, that they're just in a dream, and then all of a sudden it's like, we interrupt this broadcast, and like there's the visitation, and then over, and then the dream just goes on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's cool.
I find that just so intriguing, fascinating. But visitation dreams are always...
Like, I can't handle them. They make me want to cry every time, because it just feels so like...
That's like one of the first times you like truly weeped on the podcast.
Dude, I know. And then it was just... I opened the floodgates.
Downhill from there.
My God.
I wish you two the absolute best with all of your endeavors and can't wait to hear your future episodes. Wishing you all the magic, Angelina.
Oh, thank you. Again, we started with dreams. We're ending with dreams.
And you know what? I remembered that story when we first started talking. And I was like, I wonder if this is in this one.
Yeah, those were good. I love stories like that. They make me
Me too.
feel so hopeful because I spiral about death a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Like a lot.
I also like ending the episodes on a higher note because, and it just works out that way. Like every 10, 11 stories, however many we put in the episode, there just happens to be 1 or 2 nice, good, lighthearted stories. And I like that. I like being able to leave here and not flee for my life.
Yes, you're leaving here and I feel like, oh, everything's going to be okay instead of like, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Well,
anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you're still here, leave a
cloud.
cloud.
I
Leave
don't
a
know.
cloud emoji. I like that. Anyway, like this video if you liked it, share it with your friends if you feel compelled to do so, and subscribe for more. If you're on audio, please give us 5 stars, rate and review wherever you are. That would really help us out a lot. And the best way to support us is to share us with your friends. So if you know someone or come across people in your travels that enjoy this kind of thing, we'd love to have them here too.
We would. And check out Patreon if you haven't already.
Oh yeah, we have a Patreon. So if you'd like to, we're doing some fun stuff over there. You can check it out.
We have a lot more goals and things that we want to do.
We're starting small,
Yes.
making sure we
because
can deliver.
I have so many things I want to do, but I unfortunately
We
have
have
to
a
stay
list.
employed.
We have a list. Yes. You can also follow us on Instagram at @GhosteasPod if you'd like to keep up with us, what we've got going on over there. Otherwise,
That's all, folks.
thanks so much. See you Monday.
Goodbye.